I welcome to all of you. I have just shared this presentation in a recording. I have already informed you the topic about human rights just 30 minutes earlier, presentation by our Biva ma'am. So at this moment, I would just like to hand over this meeting to our Biva ma'am, and I just give this time to her. You may start, Biva ma'am, now.
Okay, thank you so much, Bikram sir. Good evening, dear friends. As we are discussing in several contemporary topics, today we are discussing about human rights and Nepal. Hope you will give your company till the last. And if we have any kind of uh, queries or any kind of other related topics on it, we will discuss it at last. First of all, I would like to go through my presentation flow. Firstly, we will discuss about concept of human rights. Then briefly, we will go through the historical background of human rights, where it origins from and how it arose in today's form. Then after, we will just go again briefly in the articles of human rights, and then the context related with Nepal will come about human rights. What kind of institutional structures are there to protect and to promote human rights here? And what is the current position, current condition of human rights and its issues in Nepal? And if we get time, lately we will discuss about the problems and problems in protection and promotion of human rights here. So first of all, let's start with the concept of human rights. Before reading the slides, I would like to share something to you about human rights. The word human right is combination of two words, that is human and rights. We know that human beings are the most rational creature on the earth, and rights are generally a moral or legal entitlement to have or to do something. So human rights are those moral or legal conditions to do or to have something given to those most rational creature of the earth. We know that everybody needs an appropriate condition in life for their development of their personality or for their career. So such appropriate conditions which the people claim, or every civilized society has organized as essential claims, also can be called rights. Only when the people get and enjoy such kind of rights, then only they can develop their personalities and can be a good person, or can give or contribute their best for the service to the society and for the country as a whole. So rights, such kind of rights are enforced or protected by the state's law. And actually we can say that duty of protecting such kind of rights of people is of the government or of the state. So we can say that basic rights and freedom that all human are entitled. We can especially focus on the basic rights and freedom that all human are entitled. That means it is universal in nature. Every human in the world are equally entitled to these rights, basic rights. Basic rights we can relate, previously we used to relate that food, shelter and clothes only as their basic needs, but nowadays it has increased more than this kind of things. It has already reached getting their minimum needs as their facilities of education, communication, and many more such kind of things as considered as basic rights nowadays. So these basic rights and freedom that all human are entitled, equally entitled. I have already said that rights are moral entitlement also. So right, human right is moral principles or norms that describe certain human behavior also. If we are respecting each other's rights, then it is called human behavior. So this kind of morality is arised inside our heart ourselves. Some of the rights are legally entitled also, but some of the rights that arises inside our heart and we respect it due to our self-consciousness. so which is known as moral principle, and it describes how civilized we are also. It is our human behavior, humanitarian behavior also. Those rights which are got for being human. Okay, this means we once we get born on the earth as a member of human society, all of we get this right. It is not because we are other animals, but for being a member of society, we get these rights. And basis of measure, nowadays it has become a basis of measuring the democratic level of country also. Previously there were several other system of governing any nations, but nowadays democracy is one of the most and influential system for governing in the world. So how people know which country is practicing the best democratic system? So human right has become a basis for measuring this democratic level of any country. Similarly, these rights are based on shared values, dignity, fairness, equality, respect, and independence also. These are the characteristics or features of human rights. That means shared values. That means it is a feeling of we equal for everyone, and self-respect of human being, and equality to everyone, respect and independence. That means nobody can affect somebody else others rights. So it is independence also. Now let's move towards the definition. I think it's in next slide. Okay, several scholars as well as organizations have defined human rights in different ways. I have taken one of the definition of United Nations, as it is the formal organization to start international human rights formally. It says that human rights are inherent to all human beings, regardless of their face, sex, rationality, ethnicity, language, religion, or any other status. Human rights includes the right to life and liberty, freedom of slavery and torture, freedom of opinion and expression, the right to work and education, and many more. Everyone is entitled with these rights without any discrimination. We will go through these articles lately, but first sentence I want to just revise it once here. Human rights are inherent to all human beings, regardless of their face, sex, or nationality, ethnicity. It cannot be discriminated to anybody. It is given to everyone, whatever their face, whatever their sex, whatever their rationality, nationality, ethnicity, language, religion, reason, or any other status. That means everybody, every human on the earth are equally given these human rights. Next slide, please. Okay, similarly, I have taken one definition of Nepal's Human Rights Act 1997, which was the first human rights act in our country. It says that human rights are those rights given in the constitution and other laws prevailed in our country, and international convention, protocols, and treaties signed by Nepal, which are related to liberty, equality, and dignity of human life. We said that human rights are equally given to everybody. Already we have learned it. Now, in the context of our country, we should understand that human rights are those rights which are constitutionally given, constitutionally confirmed, and these are protected by other laws also. And Nepal has made sign in different treaties, convention, protocols related with human rights. So those uh, rights are known as human rights in the context of nation, which are related for our liberalism, our equality, or equal behavior, or self-respect of human rights. Similarly, there was a conference on human rights in 1999. It says that human rights are universal, indivisible, interdependent, and related. The international community must treat human rights globally in a fair and equal manner, on the same footing and with the same emphasis. One more new thing here, we can relate that wherever we go on the earth, from Nepal to America or America to Japan, then everywhere it is given equally to everyone in an equal manner. Now, let's move to the next slide. as we don't have more time, just let's look at the historical background of human rights in a brief manner. First, I have got one um, um, origin of human rights by Cyrus Cylinder. Cyrus was the great king of ancient Persia, which is Iran at present, and he ruled there 550 to 530 BC, and he was quite unique than any other uh, king there because of his humanitarian visions and policies. Actually, he used to manage water supply in his place. He encouraged technological innovation, and everyone under his region should be free to live as they wished in peaceful accord. So it is because of king's nature, a kind of clay tablet was made in cylinder shape, which is known as Cyrus cylinder, and the cylinder describes the king's peaceful capture of the city of Babylon in 539 BC. He captured that Babylon area, and when he captured this area, he built the main temple there. And the text written in this Cyrus cylinder says that uh, it praises his nature. He built temples in the neighboring cities, and especially he returned the deported people to his home, to their homes actually. And this, with this reference, with just and peaceful nature, this cylinder has been referred to as an early charter of human rights that I have found it as I have found it in my knowledge. Similarly, there is another charter named Magna Carta. I think everyone, all of us has heard about this Magna Carta. It is a royal charter of rights agreed by the King John of England, yes, who was very unpopular actually, but as a result, this charter was made, and it was drafted to make a peace between the unpopular King John and a group of rebel called barons. Barons means a member of the lowest order of British noblemen, but there was conflict between the king and those noblemen. And um, as a result of that conflict, this charter came, and it promised the protection of church rights that time, and protection for barons from illegal imprisonment. That time, king used to imprison those barons illegally without any reason, as he was an arbitrary king also, and access to swift justice. And then after that time, feudal used to pay a lot of taxes to the crowns, to the king, and that unlimited tax payment also was limited after this Magna Carta. So after this, another point, or another background for the evolution of human right is the Petition of Right of United Kingdom of 1628 AD, and it is also related with UK or England. It was this petition right was created on 8th May and ratified on 7th June 1628. It was a result of the conflict, again the conflict between the kings and uh, their people there. It was a result of the conflict between Charles I, the then king of UK, who represented a Stuartic monarchism, absolute monarchism, and parliament, between parliament and the king, we can say. There was the conflict between parliament and the king, and as a result, this petition right was made. Actually, the king used to impose forced loan and imprison those who refused to pay this loan to the king. So this charter made this right, made that no taxation without consent of parliament, no imprisonment without cause. Similarly, no quartering of soldiers on subjects. Quartering of soldiers means it's a kind of act of government that assigns soldiers to the private houses without any consent of the owner of the houses, and the private owner have to supply fooding and lodging to the soldiers that time. And so it was stopped after this treaty, after this petition right. And no martial law. Martial law means that time there was suspension of normal civil rights during the emergency time. But it is believed that there should not be any kind of suspension of civil rights even during the emergency, which was made confirmed after this petition. And next, I have written the United States Declaration of Independence. As we know that British has made several colonies all over the world, and America also was one of its victim. And um, when there was Declaration of Independence in 1776 in America, this also made a kind of right to life, liberty, right to revolution, and pursuit of happiness in American people lately, which influenced the French Revolution also. So next slide, please. Similarly, there was one declaration of rights of man and of the citizen also in France after its independence, which also had said that stating all citizens are equal under the law. And then after, I have written here 1948 Human Rights Declaration, but before this also there was in, I think it's in 1919, International Labour Organization was formed, especially to stop the war after First World War, which was not succeed lately because it gave rise to the Second World War also. That also has given a kind of set for collective bargaining, or a kind of formation of union in industries, etc. That also set a base for declaration of human rights. But also, in spite of all these efforts, we know that a devastating World War II occurred in this trip, which had made a big loss on human life and property also. So after the after when World War II was ended in 1941, I'm confusing the date, 1941 or 44. Vikramji, when was the Second World War ended? I forgot the date.
Second, 1939 to 1944.
Okay, 1944. When World War was in World War II was ended in 1944, it hit a big kind of tang in the mind of human being at that time. So the world leader, especially from America, they decided, not only from America, but other countries also were there for the representation. They decided to make the World Peace Treaty, and they established UNO in 1945 AD. And when they realized this big loss of wars, the vulnerable conditions of human being made them obliged to establish this kind of rights finally, and actually it was declared in this scenario. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948, the first international document listing the 30 rights to which everyone is entitled. On 16th February 1946, facing the incredible violation of human rights that victims of World War II suffered, the United Nations established a Human Rights Commission with Eleanor Roosevelt. She was the wife of 32nd President of United States, Franklin D. Roosevelt. We have learned about him in another topics also. So now the International Human Rights Declaration occurred in 1948 AD. Due to the suffer, due to the loss, due to the damage made in the Second World War, we can call it as a milestone also, because it is the first universal declaration of human rights. And after this, several countries of the world also started following or accepting the terms and condition of human rights. Next slide, please. Okay, it is the same thing that I have already told. Declaration of 1948 by United Nations is a formal base of human right in the world. It is considered as milestone because it established a base for promotion and protection of human rights that we are facing nowadays also. And this human right commission, it was declared by a commission of 9 countries actually that time: USA, France, China, Russia, Lebanon, Australia, Chile, United Kingdom, and Canada were the member of committee. Different legal and cultural backgrounds from all regions of the world were represented there, and it was declared by United Nations General Assembly in Paris on 10th December 1948 as a common standard of achievement of all people and all nations, which set out for the first time fundamental human rights to be universally protected. As a result, every 10th of December we celebrate as Human Rights Day. And human rights articles are these chartered is translated into 500 other languages also, that every people of different languages also can understand and follow it. Here I have written the 30 articles in brief, as it's heading only, it cannot be described, it's too long, so I'm going to read it thoroughly. Right to freedom and equality, freedom from discrimination, right to life, liberty, and personal security, freedom from slavery, freedom from torture, right to recognition as a person before the law. Next slide, please. Right to equality before law, right to effective judiciary, freedom from arbitrary arrest and exile. I think others easily can be understood. This freedom from arbitrary arrest and exile, I want to describe it a little bit. It is uh, a kind of, we know that people get arrested due to several cases or activities or criminal activities, but nobody can get arrested arbitrary or a monopoly way. So there should be some specific reason for their arrestment, and nobody from a country should be exiled without any rational reason. It means that. And right to public hearing, uh, right to be considered innocent until proven guilty. Generally, it is said or it is heard that everybody who get arrested by the police, they started saying, calling them a culprit, but actually until and unless they are not proved guilty by the court, they should not be considered as guilty. That is what it means. And freedom from interference with privacy, family, home. Vikramji, I cannot see other articles there. Okay. I could see only up to 12. Okay. 13. No, that's finished. Now next slide. Right to free movement in and out of the country, right to asylum in other country from persecution. It is a system if a government of a country or any organization oppress its people or citizen, then they have right to get security in any other country, as we have Bhutanese refugee in our country. Similarly, right to nationality and the freedom to change it, right to marriage and family, right to own property. Next slide, please. Freedom of belief and religion. That means we can follow any religion. That Nepal also has become a secular religion. We can choose our religion of our choice, but nobody can force for it. Freedom of opinion and information, right to peaceful assembly and association, right to participate in government and in free election, right to social security, right to desirable work and to join trade union, right to rest and leisure, right to educate living standard, right to education. Can it be shown down then this point, sir? No, I just read 26 out of 30. Okay.
In this slide, there are only 28.
28. I think it's down. If we just pull down the arrow, you can see it. I think it has gone overlap there. Right to a social and international. Okay, no problem. I will say it myself. I read up to 28 years. 29th is that a community duty is essential to free and full development. And that means support of community or respect of rights of others, the community and the public property also. And finally, the last one is freedom from state or personal interference in the above rights. Nobody can affect the rights of others. Every person should enjoy their rights without any personal interference. So these are the 30 uh, articles which are included in Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There are many more for its discussion, but we cannot go so long. So I have just described it briefly. If we have any queries, then we can discuss it at the end of the session. Now, let's go towards the next slide. Mm, Now, when we came to in the context of Nepal for this human rights, uh, as we know that Nepalese history um, uh, during Ranarchy from 1903 BS till 2007 BS, which suffered a black age of our history, where it was very difficult for our citizen to enjoy their, to have their uh, basic needs also. In such a situation, if there was no condition for human rights also, there was establishment of democracy in 2007 BS, but also there was some freedom for development, but due to immaturity of our political leaders, we can say, there was frequent change in the government, and the king Mahendra took advantage, or he abducted our democracy in 2007 again, and it became a black day. 2007 first post in the history of Nepal is known as Black Day. That also could not give priority to the rights of human being, and that panchayat system was continued for 30 years. We know that, and 2047 was the date of re-establishment of democracy in our country, and the new constitution also was made there. That constitution is also known as the first democratic constitution in the history of Nepal. And this constitution accepted the concept of human rights for the first time, and in 2047. And to materialize this commitment, the Human Rights Commission Act was formed in 2054, that is 1997, 8th January 1997. And this Human Rights Commission Act gave a kind of way, it paved a way for the establishment of National Human Rights Commission in 2000. Or it was established in 2057 BS as a statutory body under the Human Rights Commission Act 1997. Now, National Human Rights Commission became one of our institutional framework for the protection and promotion of human rights here. As we know that there was again political instability in our country after that also. The interim constitution of Nepal was formed in 2063 after the people movement second, which was against the king Gyanindra's direct rule in Nepal, and it gave continuity to the commitment to the human rights, which made our Human Rights Commission recognized as a constitutional body for the first time. Now, Human Rights Commission became an independent constitutional body for the first time by the interim constitution of 2063 after the people's movement second. In 2012, our previous Human Rights Act of 1997 was replaced by the new one, that is the Human Rights Act 2012. In this way, a kind of strong way has paved for the establishment of human rights in our country also. After that, our constitution of 2015 also has clear provision of the legal and structural basis for human rights and fundamental rights in our constitution. It is in part 3 in article 16 to 46 in the form of fundamental rights. Although there are conceptual differences in fundamental rights and human rights, but also fundamental rights also gives a basis for the establishment of human rights. We will discuss about the differences of both at last if we get time. And similarly, For the protection or enforcement of these fundamental rights, our constitution, uh, I think it's in part 11, article 133 and 144 have empowered Supreme Court, which is the highest court of our country, has High Court, and the Supreme Court has provision for the legal protection of structural basis in our country. And after this, there are several other laws and policies also which have tried to strengthen the human rights. For example, other educational laws and many other laws under the Constitution have also protected, have also helped for the strengthening of human rights in our country. We cannot go detail in all those policies, but we just should remember that other laws and policies also have tried best to protect human rights in our country. Next slide, please.
Ma'am, we have just only 5 minutes to end this session.
Okay, sir, let's end it here. We can discuss it next day also whenever we have time. Okay, but till now, if we have any confusion, then let's go for discussion.
Okay, sure. If anyone is willing to ask any question in this topic, then you may just ask our Biva ma'am for any your queries. Anyone please ask soon, because we have only 5 minutes to end this session.
If we have nothing, then Vikram sir, you can add something extra things in the same topics. This remaining part we can discuss later.
Okay, everything is fine, ma'am. You have already included many things in human rights. Just I would like to add only one thing in human right, that is the generation of human rights. And basically, the human rights are categorized into 3 generations, calling it first generation, second generation, and third generation. As our Viva ma'am have already discussed about the evolution or history of human right, definition of human right, I will just say only what are the first generation human rights, second generation, and third generation human rights subsequently. Here, civil and political rights are known as first generation human right. You can see example in the right hand corner: a right to vote, right to assembly, right to speech, right to religion, a right to be treated with the dignity that you have already just our Biva ma'am have already mentioned this type of provisions or these types of rights in the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 30 rights. Under that, we can just see these rights. So these are generally first generation human right. The second generation human right constitutes economic and social and cultural rights, such as right to employment, right to housing, right to adequate food, clothing, and adequate health care and social security. This comes under the second generation of human rights. Thirdly, the third generation human rights constitutes the right at collective level of communities, population, and society or nation. Right to economic development, right to benefit from the world trade, right to breathe unpolluted air. You can see this type of provision, and that is this provision of right in fundamental rights as well, and right to live in a cohesive and harmonious manner, that is in the arranged form, that is unity in diversity. This depicts unity in diversity. So these are the 3 generations of human rights in which we can categorize. But we have 2 minutes to end this session, and I would like to ask one question to Biva ma'am, that if you want to just express differences between fundamental right and human right, then you may go. I will just share your slide.
Yes. Vikram sir, actually, I don't have kept that difference between human rights and fundamental rights, but I can say it myself.
Okay.
Actually, human right is a widespread expression that we have already said that it is universally accepted everywhere by everyone, and but the fundamental rights are limited expression because it comes under the national law, whereas the human rights comes under the international law. It is protected by international law. And similarly, human right is similar in all countries. It does not differ from Nepal to India or from any other country, but fundamental rights can differ from country to country. It depends on the constitutional provision of any country. It may depend on their own cultural or political background, and international laws make the human rights monitoring mechanism, whereas constitution of the country itself makes the provision of protection and promotion of fundamental rights. It differs from one country to another country. So I think this is the difference between human rights and fundamental rights in brief.
Thank you, ma'am, for your presentation. I would like to thank all the participants in this session or meeting. We have less than 1 minute to end this session, and our Biva ma'am have successfully differentiate between human right and fundamental right. In brief, we can understand that human rights is a universal set, and fundamental rights are a subset of human rights. It differs from country to country. Fundamental rights, as we have 31, and India might have less than our country. It depends upon the capacity of country to just implement, but human rights are universally in nature. So saying this, I would like to